Ladies and gentlemen, right now we are witnessing what can only be described as an all-out civil war going on inside of the Republican Party. Now, as you all know, President Trump's big beautiful bill passed through the House of Representatives just around 2 weeks ago, which means now it has to pass through the Senate. And worth quickly mentioning, due to the nature of the bill, it only requires 50 votes to pass, at which point Vice President J.D. Vance can act as the tiebreaker to push it through. And so, considering there are currently 53 Republicans in the Senate, there shouldn't be any issues, right? Well, not exactly. You see, right this very moment, there are several Republican senators that are actually refusing to help pass President Trump's budget bill because they're not happy with all of the details. And so, folks, that is the big topic of today's video, because I'll tell you what, right now, things are getting very dramatic. So first, let's start by talking about what President Trump's budget bill actually does. The big beautiful bill locks in President Trump's 2017-era tax cuts, which are huge for the middle class. It eliminates taxes on tips as well as overtime pay, and it directly funds President Trump's ongoing effort to secure the southern border and hire thousands of new ICE deportation agents. Pretty much, it helps President Trump deliver on every single one of his campaign promises. And so now, after having gone through all of that, we can finally talk about the drama. But before we do, I want to say real quick that if you guys enjoy the daily news updates, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. But okay, check this out. President Trump's big beautiful bill does undeniably raise the nation's debt cap by around $4 trillion, which is the main critique, but it also locks in around $1.7 trillion worth of cuts to our national deficit, as well as empower President Trump to continue revving up the American economy, which is a fundamental part of his plan. You see, what President Trump wants to do is effectively a two-part plan: reduce our national deficit, lowering our yearly spending by cutting out all of the bloat and waste, and also properly utilize the American economy to actually outgrow the rate at which we're adding to our national debt. But so folks, as it relates to President Trump's budget bill, yesterday afternoon, all hell broke loose. You see, Elon Musk took to X and posted this, directly taking a shot at President Trump's bill. "I'm sorry, but I just can't stand it anymore. This massive, outrageous, pork-filled congressional spending bill is a disgusting abomination. Shame on those who voted for it. You know you did wrong. You know it." Then, in solidarity with Elon Musk, Republican Senator Rand Paul had this to say: "I agree with Elon. We have both seen the massive waste in government spending, and we know another $5 trillion in debt is a huge mistake. We can and must do better." And so, folks, before we move on, let's try to break down where all of this is coming from. To a certain degree, I think Elon Musk is actually justifiably upset. As many of you know, in order to get this bill passed through Congress, the House Republicans decided to cut out over $9 billion worth of DOGE cuts because various rhinos amongst the House Republicans wouldn't agree to vote for them. And keep in mind, Elon Musk sacrificed a lot to make those cuts happen. He got involved in politics, he contributed over $250 million to President Trump's campaign, and he put his own businesses at risk by doing so. As you all know, the completely unhinged radical progressive domestic terrorists targeted Teslas across the country for months, all because Elon Musk showed his public support for President Trump. So when you consider the circumstances, it totally makes sense why Elon Musk is upset that the rhinos in Congress won't even agree to cut out all of the waste that the Department of Government Efficiency identified. Really, it's a total slap in the face. But you know what? Check this out. Although those DOGE cuts aren't a part of President Trump's big beautiful bill anymore, Trump's White House has drafted up a new bill specifically and exclusively targeted at those $9 billion worth of DOGE cuts, which they sent off to Congress just yesterday afternoon. And so what this does is give the rhinos in Congress an ultimatum. Either you pass the DOGE cuts or the entire country will know that you have refused to put America first. We are all watching to see what happens here, and keep in mind, midterms are just around a year from now. That is to say, if you're a House Republican and you care about your job in Congress, you should probably pass those DOGE cuts. But okay, so folks, let's get back to talking about President Trump's big, beautiful budget bill for a moment, because this is where President Trump chimed in directly. Take a look. Rand Paul has very little understanding of the big, beautiful bill, especially the tremendous growth that is coming. He loves voting no on everything. He thinks it's good politics, but it's not. The big, beautiful bill is a winner. And so, folks, I don't know about you, but personally, I can't help but agree with President Trump here. Refusing to pass a budget bill like this because it doesn't solve literally every single one of our nation's financial issues, and you all know we have many, which is what Rand Paul seems to want, is just completely divorced from reality. But now, folks, at this point, Stephen Miller chimed in. Take a look. The big, beautiful bill will increase by orders of magnitude the scope, scale, and speed of removing illegal and criminal aliens from the United States. For that reason alone, it's the most essential piece of legislation currently under consideration in the entire Western world in generations. And so, ladies and gentlemen, once again, let's try to break all of this down. You know, by no means am I a genius economist, but I sort of look at it like this. If you're trying to go on a diet and lose some weight, you don't just stop eating food entirely, you start slowly eating less, making better dietary decisions as you move forward. And in my mind, that is exactly what this budget bill does. Is it an immediate fix that will solve all of our nation's problems and pull us out of the $36 trillion worth of debt that we're currently in? No, of course not. That's not even possible. But what it will do is set us down that path for the first time in decades. And more importantly, it will allow President Trump to actually enact the America First agenda that we all just voted for. Because, ladies and gentlemen, keep in mind, no budget, no America First agenda. Regrettably, that is the case. If President Trump doesn't have a budget to work with, then he quite literally cannot move forward with the America First agenda. Locking down the border costs money. Hiring federal ICE agents costs money. Deporting illegal aliens costs money. The unfortunate reality is, fixing all of the problems that 30 years of Democrat and Rhino leadership have caused can't be done overnight, and it most certainly can't be done for free. I wish it wasn't the case, but the truth is, we are going to have to spend some money in order to fix all of these problems. It sucks, I know, but refusing to do so just means that not only will all of these problems continue to exist, but really, they'll just get worse over time. We have a chance to save the country now, which is why we all elected President Trump, but we need to give him the tools to do so. It really is that simple. And so, folks, now I want you all to take a look at what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say about all of this. Let it play.
I'm a fiscal hawk, but I am also a realist. And the way to think about this is every $300 billion is 1% of GDP. And as the clip that you just said, or you just showed, where I said we didn't get here in a year, we're not going to get out of it in a year, that we have to bring this down gradually, because we want to do two things. We want to cut and constrain spending, and we want to grow the economy. And what Senator Paul is asking for or advocating for, I think, could cause a sudden stop in the economy. So, I'm a deficit hawk, but I'm also a realist.
You say it could cause a sudden stop. You're saying that this is too radical of to flip the switch like this, to cut. I mean, he probably wants to cut, a trillion or a couple trillion, right? You say that would be too dramatic.
Well, Robert, a trillion would be 3% of GDP.
Yeah. And that would, what would that do? I mean, if because he's, I think he's a pretty smart guy. I have him on the show a lot. What do you believe that would do?
Well, look, what's important here is our debt to GDP. Yeah. So that if we don't grow, then we won't grow the tax base, and we're not going to grow revenues. We're not going to grow the economy. So we inherited a mess, yeah, and we have to constrain spending, cut spending, and then grow our way out of this.
And so, folks, that is exactly what President Trump's big, beautiful bill is all about. It is a stern acknowledgement that our country is in deep trouble, that we have a massive mess to clean up, and that we need to not only cut the deficit, which is exactly what this bill does, but that we need to also solve all of our nation's problems with laser precision, which is, once again, exactly what this bill does. Is the bill perfect? Absolutely not. Are there some issues inside of the bill? Absolutely yes. But, ladies and gentlemen, if we sit around bickering about constructing the perfect bill, we'll be arguing together for the next 10,000 years. It doesn't exist. Once again, President Trump's big, beautiful bill is a very strong first step in the right direction, and it will empower him to fix almost all of the issues that we all voted for him to fix. But you know what? Here's one more small thing worth mentioning. Right at this very moment, every Democrat and radical progressive in the country is screaming at the top of their lungs that President Trump's budget bill needs to be stopped. And so, folks, I look at all of those theatrics and I see where it's all coming from, the completely insane anti-American radical progressives, and I sort of think to myself, if those people hate it, maybe this bill isn't so bad after all. So hey, I know this is a controversial topic right now, but in my humble opinion, President Trump needs to have his budget if he wants to be able to actually put America first. Now, ladies and gentlemen, before we wrap up, I do want to say real quick that we officially have a Morse News Twitter page as well as a Morse News Facebook page. So if you use either of those platforms, please go down below and drop a follow in order to get breaking news updates that relate to everything we talk about here in the YouTube videos. But everyone, that is going to be a wrap for today's video, so please go down below and drop a comment. Let me know what you think about all of this. Please like the video while you're down there, and like I said earlier, please consider subscribing to the channel because it really does help a ton. Thank you all very much for tuning in today, and of course, as always, stay safe.